President Trump says he isn't standing down from his refusal to facilitate the return of a man from Maryland mistakenly deported and sent to a notorious Salvadorian prison.
Just on this case of the Maryland man hoax, do the Democrats really think that this is their best argument going into the midterms? Is this really what they want to make the conversation all about?
Well, it seems like they are playing the entire George Floyd card way too much. I think they think it's going to have the same amount of racial division. I think it's going to have the same amount of grifting from these families that's going to contribute to these criminals. I mean, Carmelo Anthony and Garcia both are criminals that deserve the punishment they got. Anthony actually has leniency considering they let him out a $250,000 bond when his bond was originally $1 million. And that shows the impact that they want to continue to have on the judicial system and the political system. They want to continue to divide and continue to grift and paint Republicans, conservatives out and white people out to be just inherently racist. The Trump administration is racist because they're deporting somebody who's, protected and associated with MS-13. When Trump signed an executive order designating MS-13 as a terrorist organization and taking action against MS-13, he has the outright right to absolutely deport this guy if he is associated with a terrorist organization, just like if anybody was associated with Al-Qaeda, anybody was associated with with ISIS, any terrorist organization, we'd have the right to deport them or to originally where they were from and prosecute them. We have the right to deport Garcia, and Carmelo Anthony should be scrutinized as much as anybody because he killed Austin Metcalf in cold blood all over a seating arrangement. The fact that they're trying to die on this hill, Republicans should be willing to call them how they're aligned with criminals, how they continue to be aligned with crime. But unfortunately, Republicans aren't strong enough to paint them out to be the crime-embracing, evil tyrants that they are.
And so this is what we've talked about, for so long. We call this the system of anarcho-tyranny. We talked about this in the book on Humans, Secret History of Communist Revolutions, How to Crush Them, that it's anarchy for you, the law-abiding citizen. That's why the violent predators are let out of jail. But it's tyranny for everyone else. So what does that mean? Tyranny in the sense of they use fear. They ratchet the fear up to gain control over you, gain control over society. And in addition, by the way, I just got to say it, identity politics. This is identity politics yet again. The Democrats can't quit the identity politics. They see a minority and they say this person must be a victim. They can't possibly be an MS-13 member. Carmelo Anthony can't possibly be a murderer because they immediately turn on the identity politics card and they go all in on this. They'll defend a guy who's an MS-13 member who has, committed domestic violence against his wife, who was kicked out of the house. She has a restraining order on him, Carmelo Anthony. They'll sit there and defend. And by the way, I'm not going to say that I've seen high-level Democrats defending Carmelo Anthony, but you certainly do see a lot of Democrats and a lot of activists and a lot of BLM types defending him and raising money for him. And he stabbed a kid in the chest. But, he's the real victim. It's identity politics. The Democrats just can't walk away from it because they haven't yet learned the lesson, I think, of 2024. That's why Chris Van Hollen is all over this thing. He doesn't care. By the way, I love it. I went through Chris Van Hollen, Senator of Maryland, his Twitter account last night. And I pulled up. I said, have you ever once tweeted the name Rachel Morin? Rachel Morin, an American mother of 5 whose family still lives in Maryland. 5 children that still live there. Her family, her sister, her mother, they all still live there. Sister's got a business. She was selling her knittings up on Etsy just to help provide for these kids who no longer have their mother. Chris Van Hollen doesn't care about them. He's not helping the family out. He won't even say their name. These Democrats, by the way, Kenny, they can't even tell you the name of the guy who was just convicted of murdering her. It's completely upside down, but I really do think that it's the identity politics and the wokeness that the Democrats have married themselves to that has completely hijacked their entire party.
Well, absolutely. And it's Republicans' fault that we're not aligning them with the choice that they're making. Democrats are aligning with criminals. They're aligning with Carmelo Anthony. They're aligning with Garcia, and they're aligning with any criminal as long as they exploits and to make Republicans look bad, whether it's on illegal immigration, whether it's race relations, whether it's black versus white. They're always going to side with the minorities that they think that they can use for political ploy. They want to bring Garcia back so he can vote for them, so his family can vote for them. They want to ensure that Carmelo Anthony is protected so his family and those that align and sympathize with him through racial division vote for them. This is a political ploy in order to convince minorities to vote Democratic. It's been their ploy since the 1960s. This is something that is ever occurring with the Democratic Party. They do not care to make white people look bad. They don't care to make Republicans look bad. They don't care to make conservatives look bad, as long as they can capitalize and racially divide the country and then ensure that their voters are brought in to continue to ensure that minorities vote for them in mass, with African Americans, with Hispanics, and they're also losing that battle. They know that Hispanics are now inherently voting for Republicans and coming over to the conservative side, but they want to ensure that they can make Republicans out. They're going to deport all Hispanics. They're going to deport and ensure, even if they're technically from Maryland, even though this guy is associated MS-13, they're going to make it about immigrant versus American. And instead of, ensuring and paying them for aligning with crime, which is that what Republicans ran on in 2024 is anti-crime. They ensured they got elected to political office, but now at the risk of them being painted as racist, they're not going to be willing to speak out on issues such as Garcia and such as Carmelo Anthony, because Republicans continue to be weak and Democrats continue to use identity politics to win elections and to win the narrative battle.
Well, they will. And, something else, they go all in on political theater. And you know what? Republicans should actually embrace a little bit more political theater. Now, certainly you saw President Trump do this when he brought the angel moms forward. And I'm not saying, by the way, political theater as in terms of stunts. I mean, actually doing things that benefit real American victims of illegal immigration. Naming the Jocelyn Nungary Wildlife Preserve down there in the Gulf of America. Going out and bringing forward these angel moms on rally after rally, having them at the White House, etc. These are things that are good, by the way, that are done. But you don't really see the Republican senators. You don't really see the Republican establishment guys. They don't do this. There's so much more that could be done in these instances that we're just not seeing, that I think Republicans really, really need to work a little bit harder at, because that's how the game works these days, guys. It doesn't matter just going viral on Twitter, etc. I can go viral on Twitter, but what you really need is for you to get off your duff and go do something yourself.